My daughter's going as Death, by the way. She's going as
Oh,
Death.
that's so great.
Yeah, she got her Ankh today. She's very excited.
My sons are going as a cheeseburger and
Hmm,
um
so cute.
and who's the most famous British pop star in the world?
Ed Sheeran?
Yes.
Oh, Ed Sheeran. So
Ed
Ed
not
Sh
Post
Ed,
Sheeran.
Sh
Malone this year.
Ed Sheeran and a cheeseburger is what I got.
Oh, cute.
I don't know Ed Sheeran except for from that Danny Boyle movie, but he is strikingly British looking for being a pop singer. Like he's
People wonder what's wrong with him, like what disease does he have,
Yeah, I
right?
do.
And the
diseased.
answer,
He doesn't look
no, no,
diseased. He
no, no.
just is
The
like
answer
not
is
an
just he looks like
attractive
a
man.
normal
He's
guy as opposed to a
yeah,
pop star. Like
right.
that's
He just
the
looks like a
like his face is
normal
a little
British man.
smushy
Or,
and
yeah,
like he's like a
yeah.
little orange hued. Yeah. But if you
He seems
Google like
charming.
Ed Sheeran, like you just get a million like what disease does Ed Sheeran have, you know? And the answer is he's just like not beautiful in the way pop stars are typically beautiful. Yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
guys have like a favorite like your favorite costume that you went as when you were kids?
I was the Mask of the Red Death, or if you ask my middle school bullies, I was a gay pirate.
I was always just the first baseman of the New York Yankees down to hitting like
Oh,
every year.
fantastic.
You were
Yeah.
that's the straightest costume you could have been.
Welcome to SLEERICKETS, a podcast about poetry and other intractable problems. My name is Alice. I am one of the SLEERICKETS co-hosts. It is very, very late here in Australia. I am killing a bit of time before Matthew and Brian log on to talk to me. I imagine they are both having some breakfast right now. I am recording this introduction before we speak because I frankly have no idea where this conversation is going to go. But I will share with you what is on the agenda. We have, potentially, things we might discuss. The 30,000 word Substack post written, we think, by Scott Alexander, although I'm not entirely sure. It's on his Substack called Astral Codex 10. It's a 30,000 word piece about the Fatima sun miracle. If you know what that is, you know. I did not know anything about this before I attempted to read this piece. I did not read all 30,000 words, but I just think it's astounding that people put this much work into Substack. I mean, that's a novella. That's you could get a actual book deal, I guess, if you wanted. Anyway, so that was the first item on the agenda. We also had an article suggested to us. We put out a call on the SLEERICKETS chat. We asked for an essay from a Catholic perspective that might get us talking. Because after my last conversation with Matthew, I thought there's probably more to say here. And I really want Brian on the call because I think he's the most, well, I don't know if he's the most atheistic person I know, but he's one of like top 5. So we put out a call to get something that might get us talking, and a listener was kind enough to suggest an article by Tara Isabella Burton, who I had also not heard of. She's written many novels. She's been published everywhere from the New York Times to the Wall Street Journal. But in 2019, she was posting on a website called Catapult. And this piece is sort of brilliant and quite confusing. To me, it feels like it skips over the key part of the story, which is when Tara Isabella Burton went from somebody who believed in magic and wanted to become, in her own words, a Maenad, to a practicing Christian. So we may be getting into that. There was also some talk about discussing what young people should be reading or could be reading and consuming in terms of media. I'm not sure what I'm going to be able to offer there, but I will do my best. And then I think there's just a lot to say about, well, the whole demon thing. I think like the responses that we got to that episode, the first half of which we called The Old Criterion, and on The Secret Show there was a second half which I cleverly titled Poetry Demon Hunters. We've had some really thoughtful and generous responses that I've seen. I don't know if Matthew has had others, but I do just think there is more to say. So we'll see how far we get into any of that. I truly don't know. My contention is that the less of a plan we have, the better the conversation goes, but we'll see. We'll see if that's borne out. At the end, I will be back. I will tell you a little bit more about the part of this conversation that ends up on The Secret Show. If you're interested in that, you can go to SLEERICKETS.substack.com. You can pop in your email address and sign up for a week's free access. After that, it is really quite cheap. And there are so many more episodes up there that you could check out. Hours and hours and hours of silliness. So wish me luck. Wish us all luck. Yeah, I expect by the time I'm going to bed at about probably 2:30 in the morning my time, I think by then we will have figured out whether God is real.
You're listening to SLEERICKETS.
I had this fantasy that
Is this a poetry episode or an intractable problems episode?
I wonder. Matthew, do you want to talk about the miracle thing at all? Or is that just going to trigger Brian now?
I'm not triggerable. I'm not triggered. I might be triggerable. I'm not.
Yeah.
Sorry, I got defensive. Carry on.
Sorry, no, that's a horrible word to use. And I apologize.
I accept your apology.
Oh, I don't even know. That's the thing, is like that word is, there's so many like layers to how people use that now. I don't even know how it's meant anymore.
Yeah, no, it's dumb.
I don't want to try to summarize this thing. I read like a 30,000 word article by Scott Alexander that was it was addressing an historical event that lots of other Substack people had gotten really into recently. And he basically did like way too much research into this thing. I don't want to try to get into all the details. We'll link to the article. I can't say it's worth reading because it's so much overkill. But basically, like, there was this event in, I think, like 1910 in Portugal that is very thoroughly documented. And, you know, there's a Christian claim about what happened. His response was, okay, let's see what the evidence is. Let's look at this. And his conclusion was not like, ha ha, dumb Christians, everything is obviously false. His conclusion was neither was it, yes, Christians, you're right, the Virgin Mary did do this. It was like, the evidence suggests like interesting things. And I think he still seemed to have too binary an interpretation. Like, he seemed to think ultimately either all of Christianity is true and the Virgin Mary performed a miracle, or nothing unusual happened. But the evidence and like his examination of the evidence suggested to me that like maybe like lots of interesting, strange things happened. Like maybe something like truly unusual happened on that day, and maybe that like some of those events reveal things about optics and the sun and things that are just sort of like interesting, weird little like scientific rabbit holes. And what it sent me back to was like the conversations I get so frustrated by that intellectual Christians have lately, which is like, look at, you know, physics, look at the origins of the universe, look at neuroscience, and say like, hey, there's a little bit of a question mark here, therefore all of Christianity is true. When like the actually interesting response is to say like, oh wow, there's a thing we don't know about. Let's spend more time studying it and looking at it. And like, maybe like, I do think the universe is really interesting and big and strange. And there's a ton of stuff we don't know about. And I think it would be great to spend more time examining that. And maybe some of that, overlaps with like funny events that have had religious interpretations. And I think like part of what I appreciated about the article, though I think like, again, I have quibbles, was like, he just was trying to like take seriously, like, what do we know? What can we learn? And it felt like a good faith way of approaching some like a weird set of historical data. So that was what I appreciated. The observation I've had, at least, and it may be just like the Substack feed I get, is like, as hardcore Reddit atheism has gone out of fashion, like hardcore, like the new Reddit atheists are the Substack theologians. Like,
Yeah, that's
like
interesting.
the new like fedora neckbeards are like Catholics on Substack saying like, you idiot atheist. How like the line used to be like, what kind of idiot could believe in God? And the line now is like, oh, liberal secularism, how's that working out for you? And it just feels like it's the same obnoxious move. Like, it sucked when atheists were doing it, it sucks now that Catholics are doing it.
Yeah, that's interesting, and I think that someone more attuned to the United States than I am could explain how JD Vance, was both somehow. Like I
Oh
think like
God.
he
Yeah.
shifted from the former to the latter in an interesting way. Just as I was yelling to myself while listening to you and Alice discuss demons versus fascism, I'm certain your listeners would rightfully, there are many among them who are rightfully thinking like, why are these three assholes the one having this conversation about my religion, which I believe in, and my entire family shares that belief. And I empathize with that frustration. But my question about what you are talking about with the shift from snarky atheists to snarky non-atheists or Christians is I have never read a good faith document explaining why Christianity could potentially be true in the way that you are saying it's all you read and they're all over the place. And I
Do you want to
thought that,
do you want to list out your email address, because you're about to get a long list from our listeners? Like, I
yeah,
guarantee
sure.
you.
It's just my name at gmail.com. It's Brian Platzer at gmail.com.
I was just cutting out the middleman
BRIANPLATZ
there. Go ahead and send your list
PLATZER
to
at
Brian.
gmail.com. And I thought that that's what we were going to read for today's conversation. And we read a document by Tara Isabella Burton, and she doesn't try either. And I was sort of
And she wasn't
disappointed by
purporting to
that.
try. We
No,
invited
no.
listeners to send it, and we got some other things as well. We just sort of read one kind of immediate thing that was presented, and it is not a work of apologetics.
No, I mean I've read I in my younger and more vulnerable days, like I've read what were supposed to be arguments, and they prime mover arguments or can't explain it otherwise arguments or the William James faith stuff, which like I don't know, kind of makes sense but doesn't really finish the sentence for me, and I just don't. Is there a school out there that tries to convince people in a logical way that I just haven't confronted?
Yes, this is the thing I'm talking about. It's like logic bro theists.
And what is their argument?
I'm not going to try to paraphrase it because they get
Because to
so
me, it
intense about
always
it.
ends.
This was
It
the guy I
always.
said, like, this was the Bentham's Bulldog guy where like every other sentence included the phrase Bayesian priors. And it was like, I just had to like, I
Right.
can't digest this anymore.
Right. But I guess that's not what I mean, because there are people, from Foucault on who have written like incredibly dense tracts that I only half understood, proving things that I only half understood. Like that's not really what I mean. The most compelling examples I've read fall into the trap that you said earlier, which is like, how do you explain that?
Right. Yeah.
But
The God of the
and
Gaps
then
was, yeah.
therefore God, and that to me is so. I'm not going to read, hundreds of thousands of words on this, but if people really want to send me explanations that try to,
Give some parameters for what we want, because they'll send you
well,
the Summa Theologica,
I think you are more equipped to provide those parameters than I am. So
Send
you know
something
me.
in approachable, if not conversational English, that is under 4,000 words
Sure, sure.
to brianplatzer@gmail.com.
Proving
That
what?
addresses that addresses in a reasonable stranger way why it makes more sense to go ahead and believe in God, why a God,
Well, hang on. I want to be
filled
careful there
universe.
because I'm not
Yeah.
interested in an argument about
Pascal's
why.
wager.
Exactly. I'm not interested in
Yeah.
Pascal's wager.
Though that's been
I'm
revived
interested.
recently too. That's a new thing people are into again.
And I'm not also not interested in the downstream effects where like you and I can yell at each other about like whether
Whether
society
Christian
is
culture is blah blah
kinder
blah. Yeah, yeah,
to
yeah, yeah, yeah,
poor
yeah.
people than secular
Yeah.
atheism. Because like we're not going to run that experiment back. So what is it that I'm like? Why would this be true? Is
Yeah,
like
why is it
why do you
true?
think this is true?
Yeah,
That's what I've never seen done in.
why is God why is God's existence true? Is the basic thing.
I think
Not even
that's
like digging into Christianity, but just like why is God real? Why is that a true proposition?
right, as
4,000 words or
opposed to
less,
agnosticism. Again, I
conversational
fully
English.
understand atheism. I fully understand agnosticism.
I don't,
It's the
but yeah.
next step that I don't. I've never seen a real attempt at in language I can understand in a number of words I have time to read. Yeah. And maybe there's something insulting about that. Maybe somebody's listening saying, well, like,
There's
I
a
just
lot,
have
yeah,
to
there's a lot of those
I
out
have to
there, but yeah.
explain this in like the vocabulary he already uses in under 4,000 words. Like that guy can go fuck himself. And I get that. I get that too. I want to create an avenue so your Catholic listeners aren't just sitting there tearing their hair out
Yeah.
thinking like, who do these self-important assholes think they are?
But also, like, if you are an honest to God, good faith Christian, then like what Brian is offering you here is a hot blonde in a short skirt, right?
Yeah,
Is like the
he's
most
given yeah.
tempting offer in the world. Like you
Yeah,
should
save
be
my soul. And I mean it.
salivating to save Brian's soul, to go to convince him God exists.
And copy me in too.
It doesn't
Yeah.
even need to be a Christian God, as Matthew said. It can be a
Yeah, yeah,
Jewish
yeah.
God. Like it can, like reincarnation
Proselytize
again.
Brian's own religion to him.
Yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
I'm ready.
Matthew, can I ask you to expand on what you don't get about agnosticism?
Yeah, I mean, well, it's partly I think like I think I interpret atheism differently than maybe some people do. I think some people see atheism as a hard, active, positive proposition, and I don't. I see it as the absence of an assertion.
Mm-hmm.
And so agnosticism to me feels a little bit like either it's like so to clarify, I think there are people who are bisexual, but conventionally a stereotype at times among both straight and gay people has been that if you say you're bisexual, you're one thing on the way to the other.
Yeah,
It's sort
now
of a
I'm
place, it's
finally
a
qualified
placeholder.
to participate in this conversation.
Right. Yeah.
Let's go.
So I see like my feelings about agnosticism are a little bit like snobby gay people's feelings about bisexuality.
Yeah,
And so it's like
they're
partly that.
very
I think in
different.
some cases it's that. In some cases it's like, sure, yeah, I'm agnostic. Who knows? At least till graduation, right? And then in other cases I think it's
It's a good joke.
yeah, it's baiting, right?
But
and then in
aren't
other
aren't
cases
you
I think
just redefining atheism to
baiting.
be agnosticism?
Yeah,
no,
that's what
no,
it sounds like
because
to me.
well, no,
You
I
describe
think
your atheism. I'm like, so you're an agnostic.
Right.
no, because I guess like I think like the other part of it is that it feels like it's not just like toying with people by saying like I'm basically on your side. Who knows? It's also toying with yourself, right? I think like there basically like there was a period of my belief in which like I I used this sort of up in the air agnostic like who knows, but I really know kind of like internal psychological placeholder that allowed me not to have to bother to say like, "Oh my God, I'm actually fucking alone here." And so to me it feels
Yeah.
a little bit like it's either socially sort of lazy or it's like psychologically lazy in a way that I feel yeah, resist a little bit. Like I'm more resistant to that than I am to people who like dig in and embrace belief.
Well,
Yeah,
It's
Atheist has gone
I'm skeptical.
through.
Like I get annoyed by atheists who like actively want to either like convert people away from Christianity or actively want to like or reflexively insist that nothing inexplicable could ever happen or like I mean like that kind of like positive atheism feels like a nonsensical position to me.
I'm
yeah,
But
seeing
like
both definitions
actually
all over.
grappling with like living in a world in which you do not have reason to believe in a god, like that's a difficult thing. And I think like agnosticism often feels to me like pussying out, to put it
well,
really
I
awfully.
need to
Like,
respond to
yeah.
that, but please go,
Please,
Brian.
please, please,
But
please.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, no, no, I was just going to say to answer what, again, I anticipate a lot of people are thinking is I'm actually seeing both definitions. I'm seeing atheism as a rejection of the belief that any deities exists, which is not what you were saying. And I'm seeing atheism is an atheist is a person who does not believe in the existence of any God. So I'm seeing them both in the positive and negative case.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So
So
you're
part, I mean,
converging.
partly my feeling is like, if you say you're an agnostic, like, tell me more. Like,
Yeah.
what are we talking about here? And I
All
think
right. But Alice
often the
wanted
answer to that
to
question
go.
is what we're talking about is not really grappling with the problem or
Yeah.
being polite to one person or another. That's my experience. But like, if you say you're an agnostic, like, talk to me. You know, let's dig in a little bit. Is kind of my response.
mm. Well, as the representative bisexual agnostic,
Theological, like bisexual. You know.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I can't talk the way you guys do. I can't do this like go up here and then make the argument. I just have to talk from my own experience.
It's all
It's
hand gestures.
very
That's all it is.
late.
You're already doing it. That's the whole thing.
It's all hand gestures. Like, I really liked what Steve said when you guys were talking about being a serious seeker. I thought that was a cool phrase. I feel so lucky that I didn't grow up in a religious household because I had nothing to reject. I really, really do. Like, I think it's like I was able to kind of have a childhood that was pretty nice and an adolescence that was pretty not nice. And a life after that that was, you know, fairly mixed. But like, I was never forced to grapple with this, but I always wanted to. I always wanted to. And I went to uni and like studied East Asian religions. And while I was at uni, I also met a bunch of Christians and I started hanging out with them too, because I was like, well, if I'm going to study like study Buddhism and Hinduism and Islam, then I, you know, probably want to get some Christianity in there too. And never quite got to Judaism, still got that like on the list. But I'm very interested in these
They don't have Jews in Australia. Huh?
not really, no, because of the White Australia policy, like for real. Yeah. So I have been very free to like come at this at whatever pace I wanted to, whenever I wanted to. And it is very relaxed, but I wouldn't say I'm lazy about it. I think those are two different things. Definitely in my 20s when like all my friends were so into Christopher Hitchens and Richard Dawkins, I felt like I had to say I was an atheist because otherwise they would
Sure.
think I was dumb. But but I
And
never,
that's horrible. That was like a very obnoxious
yeah,
yeah
yeah,
face of
yeah.
atheism. Yeah, yeah.
But like where I land today is like I do, like, believe it or not, I do grapple with the question of, I guess, God, although that does seem like kind of the wrong word to use. I grapple with faith pretty much every day. Pretty much every day I'm thinking like, is it just this? Because if it is just this, then I have some like things I probably need to change. But then I have moments where I feel like I have come into contact with something where I'm like, oh, it's not just this. Oh, thank God. Like, that's great. I'm so relieved. But like, then that goes away. You got to get back to the real world. So, yeah, I feel lucky because I get to just take this at exactly the pace that I want to. It's not an urgent question. It is very important to me. I doubt I will ever answer it. I think if I were like gun to my head right now, I'm probably going to answer it in the negative.
It being
The answer of whether there's God
yeah.
or not. Like I do feel strange using that word because it sort of suggests all this. Yeah, there's so much like attached to it. There's like a figure and a personality and a something that's going to give you good things or bad things depending on what you do and all the stuff that religion gives you, which I got to skip, but also not because I live in the world. So yeah.
What reads to me as a sleight of hand, which is probably a dismissive way to put it, that I do see a lot in circles that I think of as sort of like, generally speaking, secular, often like progressive, sometimes it may be even more like in, queer, semi-queer culture, is basically using all the same kinds of statements that people would use involving the noun God, but replacing it with the universe.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Does that feel more familiar to you, Alice?
I've definitely heard that. I mean, I guess God's
Like
an
the
easier
universe is,
shorthand.
has a plan, or
Yeah.
is we like there's like
Yeah, but
like sending this out to the
that
universe,
still
or
doesn't really work because like I think about that a lot because something I hear a lot is like God has a plan, the universe has a plan, and I
yeah,
don't. If there is a plan, it is so beyond our understanding that it's like pointless to even think that way. It's like,
bad
well,
plan. I would say bad plan. Bad. It's like
Well,
a lot
I
of
mean,
problems with
that's
the
what my
plan.
eighth graders are all saying now. I mean, we just finished Elie Wiesel's Night, um, and it's very much in the book where these characters who spend their life entirely dedicated to God and going to the temple and praying every day and praying until they cry and fasting for the coming savior and all that need to confront the monstrosity of what they're enduring, and the idea that babies are tossed into a giant pit of flames without being able to make any moral choices of any kind, one way or the other, like how that could fit into God or the universe's plan is something that is impossible to discuss, I think. So like the
Yeah,
universe has a plan, has to be at such a magnitude that like such a high
yeah,
level of it sort of redefines what the word plan even means. Like it would have to be literally incomprehensible that
right.
plan.
And it also becomes absurd then to ask us to care about that plan.
Right,
If it
engage in that
involves
plan at
if it
all.
involves
Right.
our throwing our babies into flames, like maybe there is a plan, but like there's no reason I should have any concern for
Right.
that
It
plan.
changes the word plan. It just changes
Yeah,
our relationship to the entire concept of there's some sort of order, or there's some sort of fate, or there's some sort of rational or rational is the wrong word, moral or ameliorative teleology. Like there's no reason to.
it becomes like much harder to make a distinction then between like God's will and like the laws of nature and gravity. And like there are powerful forces and effects and
Yeah.
like courses of events, and they give not a shit about us. And like that, how different is that? I don't know. It doesn't seem that different.
Should we talk about this
This woman,
essay?
Tara Isabella Burton, who's a lovely
Yeah.
writer and who our listener, Julie, Julie, I think, recommended. I enjoyed
I
reading
really
her
like this
article.
essay.
Yeah, it was a lovely article about being a witch and then becoming a Christian. She
Yeah, but
didn't
hang
really
on.
talk.
I think I you can critique it in a moment. I just wanted to give it its due, where like it is one of the better descriptions of being young and
Yeah, yeah,
angsty
yeah, yeah.
and needing sensation that I've read. I mean, she's using the word witch and she plays with tarot cards or whatever,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
like
yeah, 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 yeah.
but I think her depiction of trying to turn loneliness into poetry, I think there's a phrase like that in here,
Yeah.
is something that I have felt and most thoughtful feeling people I know have felt. And I think she does a really smart and lovely job of manifesting that sensation.
Totally. No, no, I very much enjoyed it. My feeling reading it was like she is describing being a sort of like pagan, secular magic person as a young person, in sort of like a dumb, slightly self-destructive way, and then growing up and becoming more responsible, and then embracing Christianity in a way that to me feels like, in a way, like most of the smart people I know who have sort of a strong feeling about conversion in one direction or another, often what we're really talking about is like, what kind of dumb worldview did you have when you were young and dumb? And then which one did you switch over to when you became older and more responsible?
Yep.
Because for me, like, I think there are plenty of people who are sort of dumb young Christians and then they become slightly more responsible, thoughtful atheists when they're older. And it may be that we attach too much. There's a little bit of a conflation between like getting older and more responsible and like flipping your vision of the universe.
And I've definitely seen the opposite. I mean, I've seen
Oh yeah, I've seen lots of versions.
more
Yeah,
of more versions of what she said, where sort of secular Jews find the Kabbalah in their, late middle
yeah.
age as a way to try to make sense of the world. But
That sounds fun. That sounds
And
fun
almost
though.
always
I want to
like
do
a
Kabbalah.
boring 45-year-old person is going to be, whether you're Christian, Jewish, atheist, what like is going to be more tolerable and decent than like a 21-year-old, no matter what you believe, right? Like you're probably going to be like more reasonable, a little easier to get along with, a little gentler, whatever your worldview, because you've become less
yeah,
shitty in whatever, regardless of your theology.
Yeah, hopefully.
the faith I found, she wrote, proclaimed a sanctified world and a redeemed one, an enchanted world, if you want to call it that, but one where meanings were concrete. It, meaning the Christian life that she adopted, offered me not just a sense of emotional intensity, but a direction in which to channel it. It contained magic not for the sake of magic, but rather miracle for the sake of goodness. God died and came back from the dead, not because magic was real, but because love was stronger than an unmagical world. I don't think there's any real denotation in that paragraph. I don't think there's any concrete meaning. I think that she abandoned one type of thing that she calls magic,
Yeah.
found a new type of thing that she calls magic, but it's magic for the sake of goodness. Like, all right,
Yeah, to me, this
that's
version of
cool.
becoming Christian feels similar to versions of becoming atheist that are like, I was raised in a really painful, cruel religion, and I hated God, and I decided to free myself of that loathing by rejecting the existence of God, and now I can live in a kinder like. I think in both cases you're performing a psychological exercise and maybe you're becoming a more decent person, but you're not really making a statement about what's true in the universe.
Totally. And that transition from like indulgent selfishness to
Yeah.
trying to perform a life that benefits others as well as oneself, like that's cool. That's good. I like that.
Yeah. She seems lovely. She seems like I like Tara Isabella Burton, and
Yeah.
yeah, I'll read more of her.
It
She's a
just
good
wasn't
writer.
convincing. There was just nothing convincing about it.
And it wasn't setting out to do that, but yeah, it
No,
was not
no, no.
what yeah, it was not the thing that we thought it might be, but it was good. Alice, what did you think? You're
Ah,
the
so many
you're
more. We
the
needed
you're
so much more detail. She didn't give us the details. She
You know,
didn't tell us. She's like, I hit rock bottom after rock bottom. What did you do, girl? You drank a lot. What happened? What
I know.
happened? Why did you end up in the church in Midtown? What happened on that day? And then when you got in that church, how did you feel? What was the conversion moment? And she's like, it's a long story. I got time. You're only writing 1,000 words here. Tell me. I need to know. I need to know because otherwise you're just kind of waving your hands in front of my face and I'm just like, okay, well, sounds like you feel better now. And I suppose that is the one thing I did get from the article is like I have a lot of time for the structure. Sorry, Brian, am I yelling at you? I have a lot of time for the way that something, even though I just said, I'm so glad I wasn't raised religious, and I am, I think it can be great later in life when you have a bit of your wits about you to go, you know what? I want to do Kabbalah. Let's go Kabbalah. It doesn't really matter what it is. It's gonna be Christianity because I'm in this beautiful church in Midtown, and you know what? It's gonna be this one, and it's gonna give me community, and it's gonna give me things to do. Yeah, it's going to give me a pattern for my life and a direction to head in. I mean, I rewatched the Hail Satan documentary, and they've got the seven
Yeah.
tenets of Satanism, and I was like, they're great. They're a really great way to a really great way to set up your life. It's like compassion, your body's inviolable. Like that's nice. You
This is the
just,
Satanic Temple guys, and this is like
yeah,
they are, as Coleman and other people have pointed out, like they are mostly sort of they're like a political thought experiment as church.
yeah.
So they're not Satanist. It's a yeah.
They
There
don't
are some
actually
wrinkles, but
believe in Satan or demons or anything. They're more just like there to,
except some of them who do, and then they get executed.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Except then take it too
I did.
far,
I
and then
love
yeah.
Jex Blackmore, who's like, "Yeah, I'm a Satanist. We're gonna kill the president." And they're like, "Oh, Mike, you can't. I'm
You
sorry, you
can't
can't say
say
that." And she's like,
that.
"Why? Because we're Satanists. I'm evil." And you're like, "Well, okay, all right."
She got excommunicated, but she was, yeah.
Though I did also love that she was like, "Hey, now we don't want to objectify women." And I was like, "I mean, why not?" She's like, what are we talking about here?"
Yeah, I don't know. I did think that with any of these things, it's like if you want community and structure and shape and habits, like there's so much good in that. There really is. That's great. Tom and I have this in joke because the very first time that I went to the meditation group that I sat with for about 3 years, I showed up at the center, but there was also a Kabbalah class going on at the same time. And this guy popped out of a doorway and was like, Kabbalah? I was like, no. I'm not here for Kabbalah. But that's a catchphrase in our house because part of me thinks like maybe the
Not here for
universe was
Kabbalah.
showing me the Kabbalah guy. I should have done Kabbalah and then my whole life would be fine by now. I got derailed by the Buddhists. Eventually I end up back at Kabbalah. I do like everything I hear about Judaism. I like it. It sounds
But they
fun.
don't they don't they don't proselytize. They're not asking for you, unlike
Yeah,
all the
it's
other
attraction, not
religions.
Well,
promotion.
that's
Like,
why.
yeah,
That's why we
yeah.
neg everyone
Yeah,
else,
because you
right?
just chill. You're just super chill. You're like, we've got these
I mean,
really interesting
not
traditions.
in all cases.
Yeah, I was gonna
There's some
say
parts of the
there are
world where they're a
some.
little less
I was
chill.
gonna say this
Okay,
probably is
okay.
not the time where we want to say all Jews are just chill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Did we
But yeah, but
fix
like
it?
what you're describing is like there are a lot of versions of this to me. There's like the I discovered yoga, or I discovered
Yeah.
AA, or
Yeah.
like sip and paint, or and I don't mean to dismiss it. Like I think they're like people
Simple
discover
paint's
different
gonna
things.
take you very far, but sure.
No, but I mean, like people discover, like as I said, like I started teaching this class last night. Like one of the people who came, and I like my heart totally went. I love this, young woman. She was like, I just moved to town. Like I'm a nerd, and I wanted to like meet some people who like reading books, and I could talk. It's like that's a wonderful reason to come to a writing class. Like
Yeah.
that's lovely, and like I hope you can connect with people, and you get to know. Like I think people find a lot of things at this phase in their lives that where they need a community, they need a sense of direction, they need a sense of purpose, and I think religion can be that. And the problem is, I think, like atheism isn't really very good at being that. And sometimes when people have tried to make it that in the past, it's like that tends to go badly.
Yeah.
Because it's the absence of something.
Yeah, you can't really organize around an absence. It's the people who hate people party.
And atheism plus was like a new Coke level bad idea.
Yeah, I mean, ethics is just like a word that you can use. Like, I don't, I think
But that's not a
atheism
community.
alone-
That's not a thing to.
No,
Yeah.
no, and neither is secular atheism.
No.
But you don't need to find communities within religious organizations. Clearly.
No, you don't. You don't. I don't wish
That's why I
to
said sip and paint.
that.
That's why you can do other
Oh,
things. Yeah.
Sip and paint. I mean,
I'm
People
trying to
just
not be.
resistant
This
to
is
sip
this
and
is like
paint
this is like
'cause
a
it feels
sister-in-law
so
dismissing guys who
patronizing.
hold up fishes in their profile. Like you can, go to a hunt and go to a gun club. I don't know.
yeah, go to gun club. That sounds great.
Probably is great. People are
Yeah.
into that.
Yeah.
Start the world's most popular poetry podcast.
You did. You already run the world's most
Yeah,
poetry.
that's
Both
true,
of you do.
That's true.
Equally
That's
most
why-
popular.
Yeah.
There we go.
So, like, okay, but hang on. Do you think less of people who believe or who are not sure, like myself?
Who are you asking?
Both of you.
Yeah, that's a great question. I want to answer it as honestly as I can. Do I think less of people who believe than people who don't believe?
Or who are unsure. Basically, do you think people who aren't atheists are a bit dumb?
No. There's a certain category of person who grew up, and I think this might be the majority of the world, but there's a certain category of person who grew up and were told certain things about the way the world works. Buddhists, Christians, Muslims, atheists.
And if you're told things from when you were a small child, that's so
Right.
powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And they kind of don't want to ask too many questions about that because they don't have an obvious replacement for that system. They don't want to question the wisdom of the wise people they grew up around, right? Like they don't want to turn their backs on their grandparents and parents and uncles and siblings. They don't want to go through whatever the annual rituals are, constantly questioning and doubting. And I totally respect that. Like it's an exhausting way to live life as a counterculture figure within your own domestic and community space. And if you were going through life thinking like, you know what, do I really believe that I'm happen to be born into the thing that happens to be the truest thing? I don't want to deal with, I don't want to think through those implications. I don't think those people are dumb at all. I don't disrespect those. I don't look down on those people at all. The people I look down on are the people who make the truth of their beliefs an important part of how they present in the world. When those beliefs are, to my mind, perhaps extreme and definitely false.
Okay, that's a good answer.
Yeah, I have a similar, maybe slightly different framing, which is, to me, it's not about smartness or dumbness. It's about recognizing your own investment of thought and care. So, like, I chewed over religion way too much because of my own life. Like, I thought about politics a fair amount, more than maybe a lot of people, but also way less than some other people. And so when I talk to somebody who's spent a whole lot of time thinking deeply about policy, I don't try to own them. I just say like, yeah, I'm gonna keep voting for Democrats. I don't, in the same way, like, I'm not really interested in rocking the boat. I'm like, this is kind of where I am. It's fine. And I have opinions, but I also this is not going to be the thing I make my life about. And similarly with lots of questions, like if you want to get into some like brass tacks, like hard opinions about things where I will go to the mat with you, it's going to be a small number of questions that I have invested care in. What bothers me is when people act superior about being atheist or religious, but have not invested thought and care in it. That's what bothers me. So, like, I get equally annoyed by smug, thoughtless atheists and by smug, thoughtless theists, right? Like, both
Right.
of
And the
those
big
things
difference, I
bother
think,
me.
between you and me on this is that the thoughtful ones I do look down on as well. So what Alice was asking, was that the question? Do you look down on? How did you phrase it?
Or do you think
Yeah.
they're dumb? Or
Or do you
yeah,
think
or
they're
you
dumb?
both. Yeah,
No,
yeah,
no,
yeah.
no. Think dumb. Definitely not. Like
Right.
intelligence has nothing to do with any of this. But do I look down on believers in the world that I created where you're born into it and you keep on riding that horse? No. But if I find out that someone I went to summer camp with, or grade school with, or high school with, or college with, or did a job with, or hung out with, or used to date, or was a friend of somebody's, or went to grad school with, if someone's like, oh, she became like super Christian, yes, I absolutely look down on that person.
Hmm.
And I'm not proud of that. That's not a characteristic I think more people should share with me. But just like
Right, 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 right,
trying
right,
to
right.
tell the truth, my gut instinct is, if Matthew came to me and said like, oh, I ran into Andrew Palmer, our friend from grad school, and he's like this like
The most
super
sarcastic man who ever
proselytizing,
lived.
he's like this like proselytizing like true believer now, I'd be like, oh fuck, like is he okay? Like is like, uh-oh,
Andrew,
like
who
that's
is
not good.
so funny and so cynical and such a good writer, would be the most annoying Christian proselytizer ever. He would be so horrible if he became an evangelist.
But I guess I just wanted to admit my ugliness. I evaded the question a little bit, Alice, where you're like, do you look down on Christians? The answer is no, I don't. But do I look down on people who affirmatively choose Christianity or embrace it at a late time in their life? Either my thought is like, fuck, did somebody die? Like, did they get divorced? Like, are they
Right, right,
okay?
right, right.
Or yeah, I think like, that sucks. And,
He, I'll confess my own ugliness, which is slightly adjacent to yours, which is, and I feel this in a couple directions. Like I feel this also about like people who get red pilled. Like if you go through like a really hideous divorce where like a woman is like really awful to you, and then you go down the manosphere hole, that feels like not great to me, but I understand. If you do that, but you also intellectualize it, and then you start to make arguments about how it's the correct, smart thing to do, despite like clearly having been driven into it by personal trauma, I do quietly look down on that. I also quietly look down on, I think, people who embrace religion in a moment of personal crisis because it provides stability and it provides meaning. I don't look down on people who go through that, but if you do that and then you also intellectualize it and you start making a lot of arguments about how that's the smart, correct thing to do, when like so clearly it's because you went to prison, man.
yeah,
Then
that's
I
really
feel like
interesting.
I get frustrated by that.
I do too, but isn't that in the nature of Christianity in the way it's not in Judaism? Like if you do have your crisis moment and you find Jesus, I don't look down on that. I think that's totally
No, no,
fine.
no, not at all,
But
not at all.
but then if you believe that Jesus Christ is your Lord and Savior and you're going to rot in hell eternally forever if you don't, aren't you sort of morally bound to try to convince other people
No, no, no,
about
no.
it at
So,
that
so
point?
if you find Jesus because of personal crisis and then invite other people to find Jesus, I don't look down on that at all. It's totally consistent to me.
Oh, but
It's
if
I
you
think
find
it's
Jesus because of
specifically the
personal crisis and
intellectual
then like,
version. It's the
but isn't that just what
cerebral.
intellectual people are going to do?
Maybe so, but maybe part of it is like I feel like you got to know thyself a little bit. Like I
Yeah.
recognize that I'm an intellectual person, but there are certain commitments and certain things I embrace for non-intellectual reasons, and I try to recognize when I'm doing that.
And Ryan Wilson would never come on this podcast and have this conversation with me.
Maybe, probably not, but I don't know. I could ask him.
I have no interest in browbeating Ryan Wilson.
No.
I
I mean,
I like
you
him.
you would hear a whole lot about Thomas Aquinas if you did.
Yeah. I mean, I've read a fair amount of Aquinas. I'm not
Yeah.
convinced by much of it. He seems smart. Seems like he felt the world deeply.
That's the problem. It's like if you asked Ryan the question you asked earlier, he would send you 5,000 pages, half of which would be in like Greek or Latin.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm not putting Ryan into that category either. But yeah, I mean,
No, but you're
Ryan
imagining
is
that
an
the
intellectual
conversation
Catholic.
that you're imagining that the conversation wouldn't be fruitful because
Oh no, I don't know that it wouldn't be fruitful. I don't know if it would happen, but I also think like my guess is that your patience, the limiting factors would be like your patience and exhaustion and his willingness to be very frank and unguarded in public.
yeah. And to what extent is that a conscious filibuster versus just his vision of the world?
Well, the frankness and openness in public is more about just
No,
being
I'm
cautious
saying, so
professionally.
you're
Yeah.
imagining, I'm like, what the hell, man? You really believe in this shit? And he like then talks for 3 hours. What my question is that 3 hour talk, is that a filibuster or is that him actually trying to explain to me something?
Maybe both. He definitely would be
Okay.
trying to explain something to you. That part,
Yeah.
I think that totally would be sincere. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
And I don't need you to speak to
Yeah,
for him. I just know that he fits into this category of somebody who's super smart, whom I like and respect, who believes all this
yeah.
stuff that I think is crazy. So I would be interested in engaging. But I'm also not Christopher Hitchens. Like
Yeah.
I don't
This is not the hill that you're choosing to die on, really.
right. I mean, a lot of this just came from the fact that this show, which I adore, has
I'm the
taken
problem.
seriously. Yeah, a little bit. I mean, it's the reason why there's a hill at all is because of my deep respect and affection for Matthew. Not because the fact that people believe in Christianity is like keeping me up at night.
I guess given that the atheists outnumber the bisexuals, no God.
Oh, our conclusion for the
Yeah,
day.
yeah, that's where we come down. I tried, guys, but I can't make a decision, so just want to fuck everyone.
Between genders or between
About anything, clearly.
yeah. I sometimes imagine what I would if I could enjoy giving a hand job.
A
I sometimes
hand job. You've
yeah.
masturbated, surely. So you could
What is
probably.
that? I mean, is that what a woman does when I
Yeah, that's what
am
a woman does.
with her and
Yeah.
lusty?
Yeah.
No, I've imagined if I could enjoy giving a hand job, I put a face to it, and I
Brian, darling,
I can't
nobody
enjoy
enjoys
it.
giving hand jobs. There's no, it's nothing. There's no
You could say it seems like
sensation.
the sort of the least interesting sexual involvement you could. Yeah, like
No, but
rubbing up against someone on the subway is more exciting than a hand job.
I disagree with both of you. I
Well, sounds like you want to give someone a hand job.
I'd be curious. I mean, I'm in a satisfied monogamous relationship, and I don't think that I could enjoy looking at a man's face while giving a hand job. No, don't think I could give a hand job. I mean,
No,
if
but you
forced to, I
don't.
guess I could, but I don't think I want to.
Here's what I think, and I've heard that like in certain circumstances, like lesbians get into gay male porn. Here's what I could imagine being nice about having sex with a man. Like very clear, gratifying, obvious, black and white standards of success.
That is nice. That is nice.
Yeah.
But you get that with women too.
Yep, you do.
You do.
Clear, black and white, obvious, unequivocal. I mean, not the same way. It's not like you don't, not quite the same.
I guess, yeah.
I mean, just anatomically, you don't get like,
No, that's true.
you know,
Yeah. Yeah, no, that bit is nice.
it's the difference between the goal of my character in this story is to save the baby from the fire versus the goal of my character in the story is to come to terms with her father's abandonment. Like both
Both,
are real
both
events that
so,
matter.
so
It's just
hard.
one of them you kind of have to take her word for it, you know?
Yeah, yeah, no, I mean, I think you're probably right. Damn you and your
Let me put it this way.
analogies.
I don't think a lot of gay men watch lesbian porn.
Maybe that number is less.
just a hunch, you know.
Yeah.
Wait, but you do think that a lot of gay women watch
Not this is something I've
gay
heard
men
from more
porn?
than one source that there's a small percentage of
Source.
gay women who find gay male porn like interesting, notable, and I think again it's like there's a thing that's so obviously happening that's so clear cut and
But
that
doesn't
sort
that
of
happen in
like
straight male female porn as well?
I think I just like when people tell me things about gay culture, I take it at face value because I can verify nothing.
Would these women be willing to come on the show and debate Ryan?
If you were a woman who would like to talk about the
If you're a
co-relationships
gay
of
woman,
lesbians and gay men in various arenas,
if you're
then
a gay
please.
woman who likes to watch gay male porn and would like to debate Ryan Wilson about that issue, we will
On the existence of
provide
the forum.
the microphones. Yeah.
Totally,
Actually, you'll
totally.
probably have to buy your own microphones, but we'll
Right,
record
yeah.
it for you. I think that's a good place to conclude. I think that's more of an honest conclusion than anything we've come to before that.
Yeah,
Uh,
that seems
yeah.
about right. Was that everything on our dumb list?
Well, we're going to talk about what 12-year-olds should read. That
Oh,
was
right.
on
Yeah, we didn't
there.
get to that.
That we probably can't get to that right now.
I was looking at my list. Black Masses and Drawing Muhammad were on my list. That was because Joel asked us he asked why I was bothered by satanic stuff if I don't believe in Satan.
I think the Muslims have that right. I think the not depicting
No, no, no,
not
no, no.
depicting sorry,
Muhammad?
go ahead.
No, no, no. I think the only reason to draw Muhammad is like, I mean, except there are historical pictures of Muhammad from like, it's not like at every point every Muslim has been forbidden from drawing Muhammad, but no, like I'm actually annoyed by that. I think it's fine. I think there's no good reason for a non-Muslim to bother with pictures of Muhammad. However, I think it's completely insane that like violence gets perpetrated or even
Or
threatened because some guy is drawing like in the same way that like why would a Jew care if a non-Jew eats pork or like who fucking cares? It's not you. It's you. It's not your prohibition on you doing it. It's prohibition on somebody else. Like to me that's crazy. I also think like but no, what I was comparing was like drawing Muhammad contests are like the Satanists doing a public black mass in Boston. It's like black masses are explicitly like fuck you Catholicism ceremonies. Like that's the whole point of them. So like you're only doing it to be obnoxious.
totally. I was talking about something else, which is that walking around churches and seeing different depictions of Jesus is always like a little crazy to me. Like, oh, that's like a super muscular Jesus, and like that Jesus is
Yeah.
like really blonde, And it
Yeah,
makes
yeah,
me
yeah.
think like maybe religion shouldn't depict their major historical figures.
I
Like
mean, it's like two of
like
the
it's better
three
for the
Abrahamic
religion,
religions
I'm
came up with
saying.
that rule, right? Like
Yeah,
Jews and Muslims originally said that, both of them. Yeah.
yeah, like I get it, is all I'm saying. Like that, I get that. And like there's
Yeah.
something there's something kind of silly looking about the Buddha. Like if
The long, long years. Yeah.
yeah,
It's because he's wise. Yeah.
he's really wise.
Like the
Mm.
Like I
yeah.
was
And his
so
last incarnation
wise.
was the elephant right before me, right?
Oh, is
Because
that
he was the
true? I
one
didn't
who
know that.
he donated. The legend is he donated his head to Ganesha.
Oh,
I was just gonna
cool.
say that's more of the
Okay.
Hindu move,
No, no,
right?
but like the hint. There's like there's the family.
Right, but I'm saying I don't know if Theravada Buddhists believe in that, what you're talking
Oh
about.
no, no, that's like the dog Jesus transforming the dogwood. That's like a little
Right,
legend thing,
right,
Yeah.
exactly.
But I also find as long as people don't get hung up on depictions of Jesus, I kind of find wholesome like varying depictions. Like if you go into like a black church and there's like a very black Jesus on a cross, I feel like I kind of like that. Like It's like
Yeah, I
the
much prefer ethnic Santas though to ethnic
yeah,
Jesuses.
yeah, Black Santa,
I
like
think
or
going
Asian
into
Saint,
all
like
these communities and seeing
that's
Santa
great. Isn't that?
represented by, I think that's the best.
It's like in the Sandman comics where like Death or Dream looks like whatever you look like. I think that's kind of lovely, you know? That seems fine to me.
What do you do if you find Jesus hot?
I mean, that's like many, you're a Christian, basically. Like
Oh,
Yeah, I was gonna say
you've
you're a
like, is
Catholic
this like,
schoolgirl. Yeah.
it's like Michael Fassbender or Jesus? Is this what we're down to, Alice? Like you're every, like if you're like, basically, yeah, it would, like if you find Jesus hot, but you don't find Catholic schoolgirl uniforms hot, then you are a Catholic. Like that's,
well, I don't find Jesus hot, but
or female Jesus. There's like, you see that occasionally. It's a
really,
I've never
it's a
seen a
little weird
female
because
Jesus.
they inevitably are topless on the cross, which is sort of a mixed message. But yeah, I think it was in a sort of like a provocative feminist context. But
Oh,
I think
I
all that's
see.
fine. I
Yeah.
think like that's
Yeah.
fine. If you're gonna have gods and demons, like go ahead and make them look like your people. That seems fine. Long ears.
long years.
Long ears.
What is there to say to prepare you for the secret show half of this episode? I didn't stay up that late, and look, it's always worth it. It's the only way that I get to speak to Brian. It's worth it every single time. Yeah, I don't know. I miss you guys. Secret show is actually the first half of this conversation, and if you are a novelist, if you are someone who is trying to submit a book, you should really listen to this part of the show because Brian has some excellent, very practical advice. Jokes have left the room. He just tells it as it is. And then the second half is, I would say, quite an uncomfortable analogy that Matthew came up with. And I don't know, Brian can respond to these things in the moment. I'm going to need a couple of months, I think, to think about this one. In an attempt to respond in some way, I reached for the writer Mackenzie Walk, who I came so close to meeting when I was in New York, and I've seen her speak here in Australia. I love her work. I highly recommend her work. If you want a juicy, very sexy, very explicit memoir, I recommend her book Reverse Cowgirl. If you're at all interested in dance culture, I recommend her tiny little book, Raving. But yeah, I'm going to read like just a couple of tiny little bits. And this will make sense if you listen to the secret show part of this conversation. I'm going to read a couple of little lines from her latest book, which is called Love and Money, Sex and Death. It's another memoir. She just keeps writing memoirs. And I don't think, this isn't the book that I would recommend to you, but I have a couple of dog ears here and I want to read to you from this book. So to set the scene, Mackenzie Walk, Australian writer, now lives in New York, transitioned in her 50s, used to be used to work as a male academic theorist, and now is kind of like, she still has all that theory background, but she just writes whatever the fuck she wants. And yeah, I just thought I'd read a couple of lines. The book is structured through letters to important people in her life and to herself, and these lines I'm going to read are from letters to herself, to her younger self. Older people can lose track of what was vital in our younger selves. That sound of surprise, shock, and delight in life. Everything of note sounding out clear, not bound in worn chords of memory. I see my peers hide out in nostalgia, seeing the same old bands, gone slack, bald and bored. You aren't bored with life, and neither am I. Honestly, if one has a capacious relation to one's various genders, one could transition just to save oneself from boredom, to be restored to curiosity, even to unpleasant surprises. Changing sex edits your relation to a lot of things, including history. A little bit further into the book, she writes about going home to Newcastle. Again, this is a letter to her younger self. Your older siblings had to manage your father's decline. You were far away. You will always be the youngest, the little brother, the little sister. Well, not yet, that's to come. You chose to channel the possibilities of your life in several directions and put a few other things ahead of becoming a girl. Who's to say if that was a good or bad call? The thing one starts to feel around 40, which I know for certain around 60, is that there's only so many moves you get to make, but you can still make plenty. Love that. Only so many moves you get to make, but you can still make plenty. Yeah, I don't think I can prepare you for the second half of this conversation. It's good. It's interesting. I'm just going to need a few months. I've got time. We've got time. Go to SLEERICKETS.substack.com if you want to sign up. You can get a week for free. Also, I don't know when this is going to come out, but I think we will still be maybe looking for, we're always looking for listener poems. If you're signed up to The Secret Show and you would like to submit a poem for a critique from Matthew and myself or Cameron or maybe another person, look, it's going to be psychologically challenging, but you're going to get better as a poet for doing it. When I listen to these listener crit episodes, they're some of my favorite things that Matthew's done on this show, and I just listen to them and then I go back and look at my drafts, and everything I work on that day gets so much better. So you're doing a public service. Quick little note from Alice's movie corner before I go. I did rewatch the Hail Satan documentary that we mentioned, that Matthew and I mentioned last time we spoke. I don't know that it's like essential viewing or anything, but it did really strike me watching it again how beautifully structured it is. The director, who goes by the name Penny Lane, I'm not sure if that's her actual name, but she has a bunch of reveals that she has to get across to her audience, and she doles them out in this very satisfying way so that every sort of 15 to 20 minutes, a new thing about this community of Satanists and Christians that she's tracking, some new, surprising, hilarious fact gets revealed. She's very kind to all of her subjects. She definitely has a point of view, but I think she's nicely hands-off and non-judgmental. As a counterexample, I did yesterday sit down and watch a documentary called Brats, which was made by Andrew McCarthy, the romantic lead from Pretty in Pink, the guy who's not Ducky and not the bully, that guy. Andrew McCarthy has made this documentary about being designated a member of the Brat Pack. And what he does is he sets out at, I think at this point he's sort of in his late 50s, early 60s, to contact all the other members of the Brat Pack. So Molly Ringwald, Emilio Estevez, Demi Moore, Rob Lowe, bunch of other people that you just know, like you've just lived with these actors' faces in your mind for 40 years now. He sets out to contact all these people who he hasn't really remained friends with, but who he feels connected to because of this article that came out designating them all as the Brat Pack. And in Andrew McCarthy's mind, this kind of ruined his life and career. What's interesting about the documentary is that that's not true for all of those actors. Some of those names I've just mentioned, you know them for many other things than just being in movies that came out in the 80s, directed by John Hughes. So it's not particularly well put together, even though there are a lot of remarkable conversations in it. There's a lot of remarkable stuff that he gets on film. But what he kind of ends up doing is just revealing how little he has been able to cope with this designation and reconcile it. And even as he's trying to through these conversations, he can't let go. And that becomes uncomfortably clear when he finally gets to talk to the journalist who wrote this article calling this group the Brat Pack. I don't know. If I had lived a slightly different life, I probably would have been a documentary filmmaker. But as it is, I've just got to recommend them to other people. So that's all I've got for you. I had such a blast making this episode, and yeah, thanks for putting up with me as your host for another week. I'm sure Matthew will be back in the chair next week. You can reach him, as always, at SLEERICKETS@gmail.com. And with any luck, we will all be speaking to you again very soon. Until then.